is the sound of two worlds dying. 4.5 billion years ago, a planet the size of Mars struck Earth at 25,000 miles per hour. The energy was 10 billion times greater than every weapon humanity has ever built. The entire surface melted. And from that wreckage, something formed. You see it every night. A pale, gentle light hanging in the darkness. Poets wrote about it. Lovers whispered under it. We called it beautiful. We were wrong. You think you know the moon. You have stared at it your entire life. But what you are staring at is a scar, a wound left by the most violent event in Earth's history. And it is pulling away from you right now. By the end of this descent, you will never look at it the same way. The moon is not your companion. It is a prisoner, born from a collision that released more energy than 1 billion trillion tons of TNT. It has been locked in orbit ever since, tidally chained, forced to show us the same face for 4 billion years, while its true face hides in permanent darkness. It is a world of hidden quakes, ancient violence, and a slow, silent escape. Every year it drifts a little further, and it is not coming back. It does not orbit us out of loyalty. It orbits because it has no choice. But even chains can stretch. Welcome to the lonely prisoner. Let's begin with the violence that gave it life. From a distance, the story sounds almost gentle. A cloud of debris slowly gathering in orbit, forming a sphere. Elegant, orderly. But rewind 4.5 billion years, and the truth is a nightmare. A planet called Theia, as massive as Mars, struck the young Earth head on. Not a distant wanderer, a neighbor, and it destroyed everything. Imagine you are standing on the surface of the young Earth in that moment. There is no surface. The impact liquefied the planet into a magma ocean 2,500 miles deep, roughly the distance from New York to Los Angeles. 18,000 degrees Fahrenheit. The vaporized rock raining from the sky would kill you before you could draw a breath. And from the scattered guts of 2 shattered worlds, trillions of molten fragments were flung into orbit. The moon may have formed in hours. A child born screaming from the wreckage. But this is only the birth. What came after is stranger still. Imagine you are looking up at the moon right now. It shows you the same face, the same craters, the same pale glow every single night. It feels loyal, devoted, but it is not devotion. It is imprisonment. Earth's gravity seized the moon billions of years ago and locked it in place. The moon cannot turn, cannot escape, cannot show its other side. And that other side is something else entirely. The far side has no smooth, dark plains, no gentle basins. It is a battlefield. The South Pole Aitken Basin alone stretches over 1,500 miles, wider than the distance from Chicago to the Grand Canyon. Craters stacked on craters, battered by 4 billion years of impacts with no atmosphere to slow anything down. You have been staring at the moon's mask your entire life. But the real horror lies deeper. The surface looks dead. No wind, no weather, no sound. Footprints left by astronauts over 50 years ago sit perfectly intact. Nothing moves. But beneath that silence, the moon is breaking. Imagine you are standing on the lunar surface when a shallow moonquake hits. On Earth, an earthquake lasts seconds, maybe a minute. On the moon, the ground shakes for hours. You would have no warning and nowhere to run. Seismic waves bounce through the interior like a bell that will not stop ringing. No water, no soft soil to absorb the energy. Apollo seismometers detected over 35,000 quakes, and NASA warns that a single shallow moonquake could topple structures and halt operations. In 2025, scientists mapped over 1,000 previously unknown tectonic ridges across the moon, proof that it is still shrinking, still cracking. A dead world that is still falling apart. And yet, this is not even the strangest part. Look up at the moon tonight. It hangs there, patient and still. It has been there every night of your life, every night of every human life. It seems as permanent as the sky itself. 1.5 inches. Every year, the moon drifts 1.5 inches further from Earth, roughly the speed your fingernails grow. It doesn't sound like much. It is. When the moon first formed, it hung so close that tides rose hundreds of feet and a day lasted just 6 hours. Since then, it has been pulling away, dragged outward by the same tidal forces that lock it in place. And it will never stop. Imagine you're standing on Earth 600 million years from now. You look up during a solar eclipse. The moon is too small to cover the sun. Total eclipses are gone. Forever. The tides weaken. The days stretch longer. And something else, something you cannot see, begins to slip. The moon stabilizes Earth's tilt at 23.5 degrees. Without it, Earth's axis would wobble wildly, swinging between 0 and 90 degrees. Oceans of ice, then oceans of fire. No stable seasons. That collision with Theia did not just create the moon. It tilted Earth's axis, giving us seasons. It stirred Earth's iron core into motion, powering the magnetic field that shields you from solar radiation, right now. And the tides the moon created may have driven the first molecules of life to organize in warm, shallow pools billions of years ago. The thing that is leaving you is the reason you exist at all. To reach the moon, we sent something impossibly fragile into the void. The Eagle, thinner than aluminum foil in places, no bigger than a pickup truck, descended alone toward a world silent for 4 billion years. Armstrong's heart rate hit 150. Boulders below, 25 seconds of fuel. The Eagle did not flinch, but to come home, the ascent engine had to fire. One engine, one chance. If it failed, the Eagle would become a tomb, and the moon would keep their bodies forever. The engine fired. The Eagle climbed back into the dark. 12 humans walked on the moon. They left seismometers that listened for decades, mirrors we still bounce lasers off today, and 842 pounds of rock. We went looking for dust. We came back knowing we were born from violence. But the moon will not wait for us. Every inch it drifts is an inch it will never return. In 600 million years, the last total solar eclipse will darken the sky for the final time. In 1 billion years, the sun's growing heat will boil the oceans dry, and the moon's retreat will slow. But by then, the damage will be done. And when the sun swells into a red giant, it will consume them both. A slow, silent goodbye. A blink of an eye in cosmic time. Look at the moon tonight. It is 239,000 miles away. Tomorrow, it will be a fraction of an inch further. You will not notice. No one will. But it is happening. The scar is fading. The companion is leaving. The guardian is letting go. The universe does not care, but that is what makes it beautiful. If this descent moved you, subscribe. I fall into the most terrifying places in the universe every week, and each one goes deeper than the last. The moon was born from violence, but there is another world, a red, frozen world that died in silence, or so we thought. Because something on Mars is producing a gas that should not exist, and no one can explain it. But that is a descent for another time.